Hello, I'm Freda Liu, and today I'm going to be talking about something that affects every woman, right? At some point in your life. It's called perimenopause or menopause. There's a lot of talk about it right now, but I think it's still something that's fairly mysterious to a lot of people. So actually, we were going to, the guest I'm with today, we're going to talk about perimenopause, right? And decoding your body's sneaky signals. That was the title of our show. And I think there's a lot that needs to be done to explain this a little further. I'm here with Dr. Sangeet Kaur, a good friend, and of course, my doctor as well. Maybe before we get into the science, Dr. Sangeet, a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Hi, Freda. Thank you so much for having me and doing this podcast. So for me I've been in this industry with balancing hormones since 2008. It all started with my own journey because I obviously had, hormonal imbalance, underactive thyroid, total burnout. I guess most doctors do. It's just that what I did about it, I didn't just sort of like conform to conservative or conventional medicine. I decided to go to the root cause and address it as the most natural way as possible because I was in my late 30s then.
Okay, wow. Okay, so which will lead to my next question, but you also brought out a couple of very interesting things, which I guess only a doctor will understand, underactive thyroid and all this, but we will talk about that a little later on. But let's start with how early a woman can show signs of perimenopause and what the signs. So in your case, it was late 30s.
Okay, so mine was actually, it was not related to perimenopause yet, but mine was, see, the thing is when it comes to thyroid dysfunction, it can happen as early as your 20s or even, in your teens, it all depends.
Right.
Like for me, I've got family history. So my mom is hypothyroid in a very young age. And I guess, being in an industry where, you're always on call because I was attached to a pediatric department.
Okay.
And if I'm not actively on call, I was on passive call, meaning if not 24 hours, we worked till 16. So that also ended up in total burnout.
Yep.
Right? So my cortisol levels from being very high, it plummeted to very low. Now, as a result of that, I was constantly fatigued, plagued by, all this headache. I could barely keep myself awake past 6 p.m.
Okay.
And that was when I knew that something was not right. And of course, the brain fog, oh my God, I kid you not, it's not funny at all.
Right.
And so that was when I decided to okay, conventional, all it showed was, look, the doctor told me your cholesterol is elevated. You need to go on statin. So I'm like, wait a minute, I'm only about 38. And you want me to go on statin with, I was quite aware of the side effects. And he says, no, it's okay. You just take it. So a cardiologist told me you take it half a tablet every other day. It's okay. But for me, I was so determined to get down to the bottom of the root cause. And today I'm so grateful to my now mentor, where I attended this conference. Then it was known as anti-aging, where, I did a full profile and he diagnosed, he said, look, you have adrenal burnout. My cortisol was super low. My DHA was very low. My T3 was hardly 3.5.
Okay.
And just by addressing that, including lifestyle, I started to get into mindfulness, meditation, breath work, besides taking the supplements for those, including addressing my thyroid.
Right.
Freda, it was life-changing for me. From then on, I knew that, this is going to be my path. And this is what I'm going to offer to my patients so that to give them the quality of life.
Right.
Because at that age, my quality of life was affected.
Okay, so everything you've been talking a lot about thyroid, and I know we will address that in the future because you were giving a lot of things like T3 and all this, which are very scientific in that sense, right? But people won't know how to check it, right? The immediate thing is they'll just look at it from a very top level and say, I think this is a problem, but getting to the root cause of it again is thyroid as well, right? But generally, when you come back to the whole topic of perimenopause, how early then will you see this? And what are some of the little things that you should watch out for? What are the signs?
Okay, so coming to perimenopause, it varies with individual. It can start as early as late 30s or even early 40s. But on the average, it's mid 40s.
Okay.
Right? Now, the transition from perimenopause to menopause, it may take from 4 years to 10 years. Average 4 to 5 years.
Right.
So it depends on every individual. So what is actually very interesting is when you look at the demographics, when you look at the clinical symptoms, you're talking about the science and all that, It differs from Caucasian women, from Asian women, the income, you talk about the annual income, women who bring in more. That means you're talking about the stress level, right? So there's the study that was done by Dr. Premita and her team. Can't remember. I think it's Dr. Ben and Dr. Aini. So this was menopausal symptoms among multi-ethnic women, working women in Malaysia.
Okay.
The Malays, the Chinese, the Indian, and mixed ethnicity. So guess what? The most common clinical symptoms is actually joint pains, not hot flashes. Because hot flashes is normally say, oh, you have hot flashes, but in Asian women, it's the hot flashes.
The joint
The joint aches and pains. So that was about 35%, followed by sleep disturbances. If I recall, it's about 31%. Then comes to mood swings, about 25%. Then, you have all those, digestive issues and,
Okay, so it's not so much the hot flash because so it's not so much for me that as well. But the joint pains now is making sense. But actually, if you go into did you go into the various? You talk about different races. Which one had the highest?
Take a guess, Freda. Take a guess.
Must be the Chinese.
No, the Indian.
The Indians. Okay. I thought the Chinese are the highly strung ones.
No, but you know what? I guess maybe, now we're putting in that category. The Chinese know how to look after themselves. When you look at the Indians, it all boils down to the culture. What do we do? My upbringing, put everybody else first.
Okay.
You come last. So where's the self-care? I never knew about the self-care. I never knew what self-love
pays to be selfish. Okay.
No, yes. Selfless. No, selfless so that you can be there for others. Right? So you come first. So I only knew all this concept after my daughter.
Okay.
So it's just
so much.
It's culture.
A lot of that as well. So and so interesting that you broke it down. So like I've heard of friends also, like the frozen shoulder.
Yes.
So that's also
one of the not so common signs. And you see, the thing is, in my practice, I get to see women that, probably the last resort, it would come to me because they would have gone to orthopedics, chiropractor, which is good because all those helps. But the thing is, they will realize after some time why it keeps recurring, what is the underlying cause. And for me, then it's just very easy because everything has been ruled out. I do their blood profile. I get details, more details about their, their hormonal, what sort of their cycles are. Is it regular cycles? Boils down to lab tests, and it's one of those symptoms is actually frozen shoulders.
Okay, so you mentioned blood test. So the blood test is very important to do first because the way you do your blood test is also you're checking for certain things that your regular blood tests don't, right?
Correct. So it goes just beyond the conventional where you do a baseline kidney function, liver function. Look, all your systems will be fine. But it's also good to do that because, you know what, we need, Malaysians, number one, we love our food. A lot of us are having insulin resistance. So when you do those blood tests, it will rule out those. It will actually help in prevention, right? It will address, it will detect, so it prevent you from being diabetic. But when it comes to hormones, it's not common to check your estrogen, progesterone, a complete thyroid. Conventional, we'll probably check TSH, T4, but we need to do the free T3 as well.
Okay, so this is where, I guess when you think about it conventionally, the blood test was probably designed by a man. So they don't know how to check these things, right? So it's only later on we realize that we need to check estrogen, but I'm sure it affects men too, but it's not as much as how it would affect a woman.
True. So
it's a whole new other conversation.
Yeah, that's one we can probably create another one on andropause.
Right. Okay.
And they will talk about the men.
Okay.
So I guess coming to your question for women, it's getting the blood tested, get down to the bottom of the clinical symptoms, thorough history. Right. History, family history, right from, your menstrual cycle from Menarche when you first had your first period and how's your, do you have PMS? Do you have severe cramps, dysmenorrhea and all those things?
Okay. Now I know, so okay, I just want to bring back one point where you talk about how joint aches is such a prevalent thing among us here in Malaysia, right? So when someone has joint aches, what is lacking in the hormones then?
Okay, so what happens? Now, the first hormone actually to dip once you're in perimenopause, majority of the time is the progesterone. So even in your mid-30s, your progesterone dips.
Okay.
Right? Now, the estrogen will also dip, but it's like later on, right? The hormone that fluctuates a lot more is the estrogen. So estrogen on its own will be I'll go into the details later between the E2, which is the estradiol, and the E3, which is estriol. So generally, we're talking about the estradiol, the E2. So it's actually an anti-inflammatory, right?
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to the joints, what the estrogen does is basically it supports your, you talk about
Life.
tendons, your ligaments. Yeah. And you know what? Joints are very important because the minute it affects us, our quality of life goes down.
Right.
So it also helps in the collagen production. So just imagine you talk about the bones, right? Now, coming to osteopenia, osteoporosis, all those things are also part of menopause.
Okay.
So there's a balance between what the estrogen does. So the estrogen basically it sort of like inhibits what we call it as the osteoclast, where there is bone breakdown. So it slows down. Progesterone, on the other hand, it stimulates osteoblasts. So that's bone formation. So it's like a yin and yang.
Right.
Right? It's homeostasis. So these two are important. So perimenopause, what happens when the progesterone goes down, then later the estrogen goes down.
Okay.
So that's when we tend to have a lot of joint aches and pains because the collagen is important
Right.
for the joints as well.
Yeah. Beyond trying to look young and all that, right? And so I guess this is a very important thing. Then should we be doing blood tests before we get any signs, right? Is this the best way to go? I for one did that, right? Before I had any signs or like, could it be happening? I'm at the certain age. Let me just get my blood. No, then when I met you and I said, let's just get my blood test done.
Yes.
And then you can see what's sort of happening behind the scenes, lah.
Correct.
Right? Is this your advice? And then what kind of doctors? Because they would not be going to the right kind of doctor. They'll do a generic ones as well. So I think that's an important message. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's important to go to doctors, healthcare professionals who are trained in, hormones.
Right.
Right. Normally they tend to fall under functional medicine, integrative. So it goes beyond the GP. Right. Because this is like a subspecialty. It takes time to really go for training, to learn. And to answer your question, should we do? Yes, to me, it all depends on your goal, your health goals. What are your clinical symptoms, your risk factors? So by knowing that, you can already start. But most importantly is, it depends on the age. So someone in their 30s, I would say, besides the conventional, do your vitamin D because that's important for people. 80 to 90%, they fall under insufficiency or deficient. Right. No matter how much we go in the sun.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I noticed they're also deficient is the vitamin B. So I tend to do a lot of homocysteine levels, which generally it will detect that. So the D, the homocysteine, and then it goes, if let's say someone were to say, look, my period, something is not right, it's becoming irregular. Then of course, these days, younger generation, so many women, younger girls, they're walking around, they have PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. So, and I think it's good once they say hormones are a bit irregular. Let's look into the hormone stack.
Okay. Now, what we're going to be talking about next, I think very important is when all this is happening, how this is affecting your mind, your mental health, and that will be a topic for another show. Thank you for sharing. It's been mind-blowing.
You're most welcome. We are here to share and to discuss.